Yom Sheni Chai Elul, Tavshin Pei Gimel. This is the letter of the Baal Shem Tov to Rabbi Gershon of Kitover, his brother-in-law. This article is part of a forthcoming book by Dr. Lamb on the primary sources of the first three generations of the Hasidic movement, tentatively entitled A Reader in Hasidism. It will present translations introduced and annotated from the theological writings of the early masters and is to be published by Kitover Publishing. Dr. Lamb is a rabbi of Jewish Center in New York. Center in New York, and Erna Michael Professor of Philosophy at Yeshiva University. Okay, of the hundreds of sayings, interpretations, and homilies that have come down to us from Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov, not one word issues directly from his pen. His entire teaching is an oral tradition, transmitted by students and students of students. But while the Baal Shem Tov wrote no books, he did write other things, such as amulets and letters. His correspondence was generally carried on by means of the two scribes. The present letter may have been written by his son-in-law, Rechiel Michel, of whom not much is known. 4 letters as a tribute to the Baal Shem Tov are extant today. In a number of versions of these, the one that is most attracted the attention of historians and Hasidim is the one here translated. Its authenticity is unquestioned by scholars, and in recent years a lively literature has grown up about it. While some investigators have considerably overstated its significance, Dubno erroneously declares it a manifesto of the new Hasidic movement. Such as hyperbole does not diminish from its value as a singularly important document which tells us much about the Baal Shem Tov, his personal life, his pneumatic experiences, his goals and ambitions. The epistle first appears in Ben Porat Yosef, the second volume of Rabbi Yaakov Yosef of Polonier, one of the 2 most important disciples of the Baal Shem Tov. The book was published in Koretz in 1781. Another version of the letter was published in Lemberg in 1923 by David Frankel as a part of a collection of early Hasidica owned by Rabbi Yisrael Friedman, the Hasidic rabbi of Hustetin. The 2 writers on Hasidism, Abraham Rubinstein and Mordechai Bauminger, are of different opinions as to these variants. Rubinstein insisting on the superior authenticity of the Koretz edition, and Bauminger preferring the Frankel version. We are here translating the Koretz text, noting only those deviations in the Frankel edition which are significant. The letter is a personal recommendation of the bearer, Rabbi Yaakov Yosef, to Rabbi Avraham Gershon Ashkenazi of Kitover, brother-in-law of the Baal Shem Tov, who was then in Palestine. It was written in 1750, or 1751, perhaps 1752. The colophon indicates that Rabbi Yaakov Yosef's trip never took place, and that after the Baal Shem Tov's death, Rabbi Yaakov Yosef decided to publish it in order to benefit our people, the children of Israel. It consists of 3 parts, all interwoven. One deals with personal and familial matters. The Baal Shem Tov speaks of his longing for his correspondent, the same Rabbi Gershon, devoted follower of the Baal Shem Tov, who recognizes in him undisputed spiritual excellence. He is the one who first rejected him offhand as an ignoramus unworthy of marrying his sister. Strong factual core underlies the legendary material that accumulated about the fascinating relationships between the brothers-in-law, and was later compiled and published in the hagiographical Shivchei HaBesht. In this letter, the Baal Shem Tov apologizes for not being able to send funds for the support of Gershon in Palestine, as he asked Rabbi Gershon to look after his student, Rabbi Yaakov Yosef. He speaks of letters never delivered because of the hectic conditions of his days, his young, brilliant grandson, later to achieve eminence in his own right, of his own financial distress in the face of his family's needs and charitable disbursements. Second aspect of the letter is a reflection of the era, the anti-Semitic excesses of the Haidamach uprisings in the Ukraine and forced conversions to Christianity, the epidemics that took a dreadful toll, and the strengths and weaknesses of the Jewish victims as Poland was crumbling in the mid-18th century, beset by incursions from without and rebellions from within. The most significant for Hasidic scholarship is the main part of the letter, the Baal Shem Tov's revelation to his brother-in-law of his most intimate religious experience. Two such events are related by the Baal Shem Tov in this remarkable autobiographical disclosure, both characterized as aliyot neshama, ascents of the soul, and both taking place on Rosh Hashanah. The phenomenon of ascent takes place during Devekut, the ecstatic contemplative communion which Hasidim, beginning with the circle of pneumatics to which the Baal Shem Tov belonged, cherished as the goal of all religious activity. The psychological manifestations of this experience are hardly mentioned by the Baal Shem Tov. Another instance of the reticence of Jewish mystics and their reluctance to speak of their supreme religious experience, but there is an abundance of description of the content of the vision. Both visions, separated by 3 years, have a clear purpose: to negate and void anti-Semitic decrees. The Baal Shem Tov takes it upon himself to risk his life, for the ecstatic ascent threatens to sever the visionary's link with mundane existence in order to plead in heaven for his people. In the second vision, much less elaborately described than the first, Baal Shem Tov appears as almost petulantly tenacious. The arguments that they in heaven present in an effort to dissuade the Baal Shem Tov from additional pressure to ease the burdens of Israel certainly seem reasonable. An agreement is an agreement, and the Baal Shem Tov had agreed to an epidemic is better than a pogrom, yet he will not desist, but seeks all kinds of schemes for circumventing the decree. The first vision, in the fall of 1746, is by far more detailed, and is the major part of the document that has given rise to conflicting historiographic interpretations. The Baal Shem Tov himself testifies to the unusual nature of the experience. He speaks, if we are to accept the Koretz text, which includes this remarkable passage, see below, of recognizing some of the multitude of souls he encountered. He assures of Gershon that he too knows some of them and is amazed by the willingness of heaven to accept the repentance of certain sinners. The latter probably refers to Jews who submitted to baptism out of fear of death. The souls plead with him for his assistance, and the reader is struck by the self-awareness of the Baal Shem Tov as a superior charismatic, to use Rudolf Otto's term, a self-image that is clearly defined, both but unself-conscious. The Baal Shem Tov appears to his teacher, Ahijah, the prophet of Shiloh, for assistance. He engages Sema, as the Samach Mem, Samael, the chief demon, as a dialogue about the evil decree. But most important is the personality upon whom the Baal Shem Tov focuses all his intercessionary efforts, the Messiah. We'll stop here for now.